Fox News alert ISIS taking credit for the bombings that left 34 dead in Brussels and injured more than 200. How did the suspects evade the attention of the Belgian authorities long enough to commit the deadly crimes? Let's talk to Ryan Mauro. He is a security analyst at the Clarion Project. Good morning to you, Ryan.
Good morning.
We've seen that shot from the closed-circuit television. Apparently, the two guys who are brothers, they'd been on the radar, those two guys right there, wearing only the left-hand gloves, Khalid and Briham El-Baroui, or something like that. Khalid had rented the apartment where the police killed the gunman last week. He was also sentenced for shooting at the police in 2010 with a Kalashnikov. These guys were on the radar of the cops over there for a long time.
Right, so there is that temptation to say, what are you doing over there? How come you didn't get them beforehand? But you have to consider the amount of manpower it takes to have someone under 24/7 surveillance and the number of operatives that you have to track. So the number 90 of people that went from Belgium and joined ISIS and then came back has been thrown around. But that doesn't include the people that are supporters of ISIS and that you have to be equally concerned about.
Yeah, I think one of the guys, though, one of the brothers, had actually gone to Saudi Arabia a couple of years ago, so they had good reason to keep somebody on this guy.
Okay, but most of them also will go to Saudi Arabia. That's a very common trip for them to make. So it becomes very difficult for any security service, especially if you're talking about Belgium. If it's tough for the United States, it's going to be very tough for Belgium to keep track of everybody.
What do you mean by that? As if Belgium's heart isn't in it?
No, I think their heart is in it, but they are dealing with a threat that is even higher than what we face, and we're having difficulty.
It's just so gigantic.
It's so gigantic, and it's a small country. The House Homeland Security Committee actually said that our resources are strapped right now here in the United States and at the breaking point. So imagine what Belgium's dealing with.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's talk a little bit about, could what happened there happen here? I mean, clearly, these guys have figured out the system. The bombings at the airport took place in front of or before the security check. So, you know, people were sitting ducks.
There's always a juicy target if you want to die, which is what these guys want to do. And now you're dealing with a network in Europe. It's not just a collection of lone wolves. They have safe houses, a web of contacts. They travel in and out of the continent. And every ingredient that leads to that powerful network coming about in Europe exists in the United States. It just hasn't matured yet. So when you look at Belgium, that's the future of the U.S. if these trends continue.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some enclaves across the country, and in particular one down in Texas. Tell us about what's going on down there.
Sure. I identified this site with the Clarion Project, broke the story on Fox and Friends with you. There's a group called Jamaat ul-Fuqra. They have a leader in Pakistan, and for decades, they have set up these enclaves, as the government files refer to them as, dozens of acres large, where there has been training, criminal activity, and a history of terrorist activity. They say they have 22 of these spots around the country. We don't know if that's true or not, but we do know of a number of them.
Okay, training. Training to do what?
Jihad, according to their own videos. I've got a video of the women at their headquarters, Islamburg, actually getting that guerrilla warfare training. It's undated, but that shows the intent of what these spots are for.
So what is your prime worry about these groups scattered across the country, what they're doing or what they're fixing to do?
Just that they're going to be activated because they're like a cult. They're so loyal to their leader in Pakistan that if he says go, they're going to go. And so there's a fear among law enforcement officials about a Waco-type scenario, especially because now there are people who are harassing these guys, going to these spots, and they have guns. So you could have a clash that happens, or they could be triggered, not because of something law enforcement does, but because of something just a random crazy guy does.
Okay, so we know where these camps are. Why don't we close them down?
Because Jamaat ul-Fuqra is not listed as a foreign terrorist organization. So it is legal for them to buy this property, to live there. If an individual has enough evidence that they're engaging in illegal activity, the authorities can get them. But again, there's that risk of a Waco-type scenario. And amazingly, this group has gone over with an image makeover, and there's press outlets and officials that refer to them as moderates now.
Do you buy that?
Not at all. Based on their own activity, I watched their videos. They call Jews examples of human Satans. Their top members have engaged in terrorist plots, have gone to jail for it. The evidence on this is so solid.
People would like to read more about these enclaves around the country. You have a website?
Sure, they go to clarionproject.org and they can see if this or another radical Islamic organization is in their state.
Scary stuff. All right. Ryan Mauro, thank you very much.